Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is our Friday news dump, so we're going to tell you all the news before the weekend so you can celebrate it, if any of it is good news for you anyways. Today on Before Coffee, the Thames Water tells hundreds of Surrey households not to drink the tap water.
And defendant J. Trump is now convict J. Trump. The J stands for jailbird.
Two different things happening from Poland. We got Poland restricts conscience clause on abortion. And in Austria, there's climate protest in 8 cities.
And the African National Congress fails to get 50% in South Africa elections, so they're going to have a coalition government.
The French Open is now banning alcohol because the crowd was too rowdy.
All those fun stories on Friday's News Dump, which is Speak in Complete Sentences Day. So we're going to try that for a change on May 31st, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Okay. Can I speak in complete sentences? I will try my best, she said. Anyways, I talk in a lot of prepositions. That's my problem with speaking. I think 2 months ago, maybe, we talked about the Thames water and how they were putting so much sewage in the Thames that no one could go swim in it during a boat race. And now there's more drama because, of course, the water in Surrey is not drinkable.
Welcome back to the
stream. Or I guess non-potable is what they say.
Where were we?
The company tells Bromley residents that tests have indicated possible deterioration in quality after a historic fuel leak. Oh, there's been a fuel leak. Man, this water company, which has a monopoly on the entirety of the southern England region, not doing its job right. More than 600 households in Surrey have been told not to drink their tap water after tests carried out by Thames Water. The company said the results on Thursday, which was the 30th of May, indicated a possible deterioration in quality of drinking water in some areas. A total of 616 houses in and around the village of Bramley have been given the precautionary instruction not to use their water supply for drinking, cooking, or brushing their teeth, although they can continue to use it to shower and wash hands. Just don't swallow it. It comes after the collection and assessment of drinking water in the village followed a historic fuel leak from its petrol station. The notice will remain in place while further investigations are carried out, Thames Water said. The utility company added that letters and bottled water would be delivered to the affected properties. Well, at least they're doing that much. The Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, said bottled water stations were being set up in the village. Bramley is part of the South West Surrey constituency that he represented until Parliament was dissolved on Thursday. Hunt said he had spoken with the UK Health Secretary Agency, UKHSA, Thames Water, the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, a local councillor, and ASDA, which operates a petrol station on the site of the fuel leak. Complaints from local people about the fuel leak date back to 2021, so this leak has been happening probably since before that, and they finally are like, okay guys, don't drink the water, it's poisoned. And Hunt said it posed a risk to broadband and telephone services of 880 BT customers as the company's duct work passes the site. Tess Fairs, Thames Water's Operation Director for Thames Valley and Home Counties, said, "We are asking 616 Bramley properties not to drink the tap water following recent water sampling results. The health and safety of our customers is our number one priority, and we would like to reassure residents this is a precautionary measure." She said the company was identifying sites to set up bottled water stations and replacing sections of our pipes on the Horsham Road to reduce the risk to our customers. A Waverley Borough Council spokesperson said, "We are working closely with Thames Water and other agencies to try to mitigate the impact on residents. We will support residents wherever possible." As an ASDA spokesperson said, We are continuing to work closely with the Thames Water and other parties to address the issues we inherited after acquiring the Bramley PFS site. Ah, there they go. This isn't our fault. The previous owners had a leak. We just own the land that it's on. We recognize the impact this has had on the residents of Bramley and share with their frustrations. We are committed to working with all parties to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. It comes after Southwest Water issued a boil water notice for about 17,000 households in Brixham, Devon, amid a parasite outbreak caused by contaminated water supply. The number of confirmed cases of Cryptosporidium has now reached 100, the UK HSA said on the 30th of May. The Guardian revealed a week ago that Thames Water had sent samples of water from southeast London for lab testing after dozens of people reported becoming unwell with stomach cramps, vomiting, diarrhea in Beckenham. Thousands of homes in Surrey were left without water in November after Storm Syrian, with more than a dozen schools forced to close. Hunt is running for re-election in the new seat of Godalming and Ash, which will replace his former constituency. They're having a municipality combo or whatever. They're switching around their counties, sounds like. But yes, this there's your news coming out of Surrey. So if you're living there, don't drink the water, which I'm sure you've already heard.
I don't even drink the water in my house. I got a well. So.
I'm just following this Thames Water drama because it seems like they're always...
Right. Yeah. What are we dumping in our rivers? Yeah, rivers are, unfortunately, in a lot of places, also sewers. And at least, some places have regulations like London. Not that anybody's
even though they
them,
have regulations,
they
don't listen to them. They just pay the fine.
They have things in place.
Regulations. So.
They have, let's call them suggestions. How's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Suggestions. Strong suggestions.
You do this, or else you're gonna.
We strongly suggest. We strongly suggest you do not dump your motor oil changes in the river. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Least you could do.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, that's what the Navy does in the ocean. Little secret there. They go to deep sea and they dump their used oil. Seen them do it. All right. Well, in the United States, we have good news. Donald Trump has been convicted of 34 counts. This is a news dominant thing that everybody in the United States, if you watch any news channel, 24-hour news channels, other than Fox doesn't want to cover the fact that Trump's a criminal because they're dishonest. And the other networks, though, just wall-to-wall coverage, reporters, reporting breathlessly on everything. So we haven't really covered it because they already do it. But we'll cover the verdict. This is from Michael R. Sizek, Jennifer Peltz, Eric Tucker, Michelle L. Price, and Jill Colvin, the whole team over at AP News. Donald Trump became the first former American president to be convicted of felony crimes Thursday as a New York jury found him guilty of all 34 charges in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election through a hush money payment to a porn actor who said the two had sex. Trump said stone-faced. Well, the verdict was read as a cheering from the street below could be heard in the hallway. On the courthouse 50, Florida decision was revealed. You know people hate you when they're cheering a verdict, and they have no stake in it, right? Trump's conviction on 34 felony counts marks the end of his historic hush money trial, but the fight is far from over. Here's what to know. There's going to be sentencing on July 11th, just days before the Republicans are set to pick Trump for the 2024 nominee. Oh, God, please put him in jail just for 30 days while he's in. Just have your convention and have him. Oh, we'd like to have a speech for Trump, but it's not visiting hours. Just come on, man. Take away everything he has. He is a criminal. He's trying to ruin our country. Well, he's already ruined it to a good portion, right? At least exposing all the idiots we have to deal with that can't be dealt with in logic, right? You got to trick them. You can't round them up, even though Trump wants to do that. He wants to round people up. Yeah. That's his plan. Round people up that disagree with me. He's running on that. Yeah, that's what he's running on. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial, angry Trump voters. Yeah, again, you've been saying that the whole fucking time. That's why you're a convicted moron. Judge Juan M. Merchant set sentencing for July 11th, just before the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. What the fuck is Milwaukee letting them fucking bastards in there for? I guess the dollar's a dollar. Ugh. Ugh. That makes me want to puke. The verdict of a stunning legal reckoning for Trump and exposes him to potential prison time. This is one of his 4 trials, by the way, and the weakest of the 4. The weakest. The other 4, we got him dead to rights. We got recorded phone conversations. We got him hoarding highly classified materials and lying about it. And we have him, standing around while the Capitol's being attacked. So we got him dead to rights and all this other crap. This is the weakest case, and he was guilty on all counts. There was no not guilties. Guilty, all on the line. Trump's expected to appeal the verdict, and hey, you know what? He may win on appeal, right? But either way, the appeal ain't gonna happen soon. You have to be sentenced first there, Chuckles. There are no campaign rallies on the calendar for now, though he traveled Thursday evening. The fundraiser in Manhattan was planned before the verdict, according to 3 people familiar with the plans. Hopefully it just stresses him out so bad that just, you know what I'm saying? Just, we got to end this chapter in American history as fast as possible and get on with our lives. And I know the Republicans want this more than anything. They want him to just go away. You know they do. Well, he's winning races for us. No, he isn't. He's losing constantly, dudes. He's always losing. The only thing he won was the Electoral College with help from Russia. The only reason he ever got in office is help from Russia. Only reason. Former president, for another candidate in another time, a criminal conviction might doom a presidential run, but Trump's political career has endured through 2 impeachments, allegations of sexual abuse. He was convicted of sexual abuse, investigation into everything, potential lies to Russia. Here's the thing. They keep saying allegations. He was convicted in court and found liable of rape. There's no allegation about that. It was in court, and he's paying money to the lady. Man, these people are such both-siders. We all need to be fair. Full of shit reporters. They're afraid to report facts. They call things allegations that have been proven in court. The case's general allegations have also been known to voters for years, and while tawdry are widely seen as less grievous than, editorializing in the middle of a paragraph. I don't know why you got to do that report. Okay, I'm not reading the rest of this woman's report. She's both-siding it. These allegations didn't do this and they didn't do that. I'm like, why are you saying things that aren't true? The dude did not win the last election. He lost by 7 million votes. Why do you think these allegations have no effect on that? I'm sorry, I'm done reading the story. You know this, you know the gist of it. Trump was found guilty.
Also, popular vote doesn't mean anything because we have an electoral system. So it's really how many electors he lost by. Yeah, that's all that matters. So, because Clinton,
it doesn't matter.
He lost. He lost
the electoral college by. Okay, he went from winning the electoral college to losing the electoral college. Is that not losing votes? I think it is. So when they editorialize and say he hasn't lost any support, it's absolute nonsense. I hate reporters that do this. They keep acting like they have to prop up their story.
Yeah. Has he lost supporters? Nobody knows. You'd have to ask every single person who's ever supported Trump and say, do you still support him now? You know?
The polls that the New York Times puts out are complete frauds. For one thing, they oversample rural voters. 39%, I saw one poll, 39% of rural voters are in this poll. Really? America is 39% rural? No, it ain't. It's like 17% rural, something like that. So, again, they're oversampling Trump voters to make the polls look close, to sell papers, because they can't sell papers, to get clicks, to get interest on their stupid biased reporting, and it is biased. If you're biasing reporting to be totally fair to one side and not fair to the other side, you're biasing. I don't want them to think we're liberal, so I'm going to totally overcover the other side. Totally get on board with there. And then of course, you have people like Maggie Haberman and Katie Tur, who practice access journalism, right? They give only favorable reports, so they get the scoop from the inside. Of course, the scoop on the inside's just lies being fed to them. They don't care though. They're getting on TV. They're getting their careers advanced. They're getting money. They're getting fame. They're getting out there. They don't care what happens. They're not actually reporters. They're spokesmodels. Let's call them spokesmodels, because they're not really diving into anything. They're just repeating what they were told. Not reporters, they're repeating what they were told. And I'm sick of reading reports who try to be so fair to an obvious criminal, that they give him all kinds of cover. Oh, it's possible that everybody in the world is lying and Donald Trump is the only one telling the truth. That's their point of view they put on. So AP again drops the ball with about an 8-minute report where they sit there on both sides the whole thing and give Trump's side the whole article. So I'm sorry I clicked on that one. Sorry I wasted your time. Trump's guilty, and we'll see next trial.
Yep.
I'm not going to be happy till he's either in a grave or he's in prison. I am not going to be happy. And I sure as hell don't want to be president. And I'm sure 90% of Americans don't feel that way. Just the people that vote aren't the people that hate him. They just don't care. They think everybody's evil. They've been told that everybody's evil, so it doesn't matter if I vote.
Yeah. That definitely is an issue with voting.
Again, what are you gonna do about those? And reports like this AP nonsense is, well, this is obviously a rigged trial. Oh, okay. Every trial's rigged then, because the judge and the jury have rules. Other than that, a guy yelling and screaming and acting like a child and falling asleep during his trial, you want him to be found innocent?
The
Why?
law is
He's not innocent.
Is rigged. That's how law works. You try to prove without reasonable doubt that the person.
No,
I'm
the
just saying.
law's rigged.
I'm just saying this is how trials work, right?
Painful.
This is how trials work. Two lawyers battle each other to convince a jury and the judge that what they're saying is true. So in a way, they can use all sorts of
only call the
fallacies,
witnesses
they can use
want.
all sorts of arguments in order to convince the jury and the judge that what they're saying is true, right? People like to treat law like it's a fact, but it's really just a perspective. That's all. And unfortunately for the people who like Trump, their perspective lost, and so too bad. The plaintiff was correct.
The law is rigged, and it's rigged for people like Trump, not against them, but for them.
Well, yeah, the better liar you are, the more likely you can win a lying contest.
And people say, well, they didn't call all the witnesses. I said they could call all the witnesses they wanted to, and they didn't want to call any more witnesses. Why did they want to muddy the waters with a whole bunch of information? You call the witnesses you need. You don't call the ones, all the witnesses.
Are the worst testimony.
No, you don't have to call all the witnesses. Defense can call the witnesses they want. Why didn't they? They didn't. They called one, and he was an idiot. So
basically,
that's their
what
fault.
I recommend is if you want to know how the law works, go watch Legal Eagle or something on YouTube. He'll explain everything to you about how law actually works. Okay, the movies are
none
not
of this
accurate.
is going to convince the Republican cult, unfortunately, because it's a cult. It's a cult of one person that they all hate. By the way, they all hate him. They hate him with a burning passion. You know, they're sitting around, God, when is this guy going to die? But it's a cult, and they know it. And the people out there with that don't blink very often, that believe every conspiracy out there, as long as it's hurting them, right? There's no conspiracy helping you. Just to all the conspiracies are the ones that are hurting me, by golly. Yeah, you get them to believe just about anything because they have low self-esteem, because they're uneducated, because they never learned anything. And they're only going to accept what makes them feel good about themselves. So there is the Trump world in a nutshell. You can't change the minds of people who are in a cult. They're going to go down with their hero. Somebody's going to do something stupid here soon. You watch. It's been happening all along. Going to start shooting up cops, going to drive into an FBI building or whatever. Totally misplaced aggression against whoever's in their local neighborhood because they can't handle reality. So, the story was a kind of a clickbait about let's both sides this to death. And sorry about that. back to your stories.
Okay. Well, speaking of politics, we're definitely going to be talking more about that, but from the European angle, because what is happening in Poland? They have amended a Polish resolution on the use of the word conscious on abortion, and it has come into force, requiring hospitals to have a doctor on site able to perform an abortion in certain circumstances, a significant change in a country with one of the strictest abortion laws in Europe. This is on Euractiv. This is on Euractiv by Alexandra Pisatozek. Hospitals will now have to ensure that at least one of their doctors is able and willing to carry out abortions in the case permitted by law, such as when life or health of the mother is in danger when pregnancy is the result of rape. The change is aimed at cracking down on cases of doctors abusing the conscious clause, resulting in women being unable to terminate pregnancy even when it's legal. Due to the abuse of this so-called conscious clause by some medics, women are often unable to exercise their right to a legal termination of pregnancy. It is said in amendment justification. Failure to provide abortions will now result in penalty for the hospital, including possible termination of its contract with the National Health Fund, NFZ, which means a reduction in state reimbursements for medical procedures and treatment. Under the 1996, that's how old this law is, doctors have the right to invoke a conscious clause and refuse to perform a medical procedure on religious or moral grounds unless the refusal would deteriorate the patient's health. Consequently, the conscience clause can never apply in a situation where a pregnant woman's life is at risk, regardless of advancement of age or pregnancy, as stated in the justification for the new amendment. Polish abortion law is one of the strictest in Europe. Under the 1993 so-called abortion compromise that was in place until 2020, terminating the pregnancy was only permitted in 3 cases. The pregnancy is caused by rape, a threat to the mother's life, and damage to the fetus. A 2020 ruling by the Constitutional Tribunal, which the EU institutions and many experts saw as controlled by the then conservative PIS or ECR government, overturned the latter, sparking a nationwide wave of protest. After a year, the tribunal's ruling, the European Parliament, in a resolution, the first anniversary of the de facto abortion ban in Poland, called the government in Warsaw to lift the ban that it said puts women's lives at risk. The vote came after a death of a pregnant Polish woman in early November, whose family said died of septic shock, which most people do when they aren't, after doctors waited for her unborn baby's heart to stop beating. Replacing PIS in power in December 2023, the broad coalition led by Prime Minister Donald Tusk pledged to liberalize the law. However, as the coalition members' party disagreed on how the liberal new law should be, they submitted 3 different draft bills to Parliament. Tusk's Civic Coalition, KO, EPP, SD, and Greens, as well as the left, S&D, insist on permitting abortion on demand until the 12th week of pregnancy. The Third Way Alliance, Renew, and EPP, on the other hand, want a return to the 1993 law. Last month, PIS MP Mostes Morawiecki, who was the Prime Minister in 2020, said he supports restoring the status quo abortion compromise. In Poland, he had scrapped when in power. So people, of course, are the more religious countries are, which we did talk about, I think, on Thursday, with the lowest population, the highest populations with the lowest birth weight. Well, they're trying to force people to give birth to children who aren't even alive at this point, because that's basically the only thing that's allowed is pregnancies that can cause harm, or you happen to be sexually assaulted and get pregnant from that.
And you got to prove you're sexually assaulted.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to prove that it was sexual assault, because remember, in most of these countries where they have this kind of archaic ideal on women's autonomy, if your husband rapes you, it's not rape, because you got married to him, so you've agreed to have sex with him for the rest of your life. So that would
if you're an undocumented immigrant, you're not going to report any crime.
Yeah, exactly, that as well. There's many reasons why there's people out there who are having children and putting their lives at risk because the government will basically charge them with charge them with criminal activity.
Think of the position these governments put undocumented immigrants in. A woman can get raped. She can't go to the law. The law will say deport her children, her husband, whoever, right?
Yeah.
They'll deport them all, and they'll have no money, right? And they'll have to go, right? So that's the burden she carries, and she can't seek an abortion in these places because it made it illegal or hard to find. So, yeah.
It sucks, 100%. And it makes, but hopefully they are able, with the new liberal government that's in charge under Tusk, hopefully they're able to make it more liberal as they wanted to. And for example,
there's real oppression in this world.
Yeah. In more
there's real oppression
news,
in it.
Sorry?
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I said there's real oppression in this world, and none of it is happening to Donald Trump. Back to you. Sorry.
In more political news, we've got climate protests starting today in 8 Austrian cities. This is from Der Standard by... Who wrote this article? Nobody knows. It's a mystery. With climate strikes in several Austrian cities, Fridays for the Future is demonstrating for climate-friendly EU policy. The strikes are scheduled to begin, or they already have begun in this case, in Bregenz at the harbor, a demonstration in Klagenfurt at the New Square, one of Fischergries in Kufstein, and another strike at Salzburg. So the Kufstein one has already will begin in about 10 minutes. Kufstein, sorry. And then the Salzburg one will begin at 3 p.m. So actually, I think maybe the Kufstein one has already begun because this is German time. And one at 3:30 p.m. in Graz, both at the main train station. Events will follow at 4 p.m. on the main square in Linz and on the market square in Innsbruck, and at the same time as the climax, an announced large demonstration will begin in downtown Vienna. So later, if you're living in Vienna, look out for those climate protests. You maybe even join in. Starting point in Vienna is Sigmund Freud Park. I love how Sigmund Freud has a park in Vienna. The route then leads past the House of the EU, and the final rally is planned at 6 p.m. at the Heldenplatz. Environmental organizations such as Greenpeace and Global 2000 are supporting the climate strike. Greenpeace, for example, is calling on people across Austria to use their vote in the EU elections on June 9th for nature and climate protection because it sees an acute threat to nature conservation laws at EU level. With the Green Deal, the EU has started to build a dam against the climate crisis, says Mark Dengler, climate and energy expert at Greenpeace in Austria. Now, before the election, the OVP is at the forefront in the wrecking ball and is punching holes in an already unfinished dam. Dengler reminds us that OVP top candidate Reynold Loptaka is campaigning against an end to the combustion engine in cars and of the OVP federal state's blockade on the renaturation law. Can't believe in 2024, politicians are still running on platforms that are denying climate change is happening still. Global 2000 is calling for two things. Sorry?
Big oil. Don't
big
underestimate
oil,
their power.
Mm-hmm. Global 2000 is calling for two things. First, to take part in one of the climate strikes today, and then to vote in the EU elections on June 9th. This is an opportunity for all of us to set the course for consistent climate protection throughout Europe and for us in Austria, says Victoria R., climate and energy spokesperson for Global 2000. With important political projects such as the Green New Deal, the EU has launched ambitious measures to protect our livelihoods. These measures must be defended and further expanded in order to secure a sustainable future for future generations. The protest in Bregenz, which began in the pouring rain and strong wind warning at Lake Constance, it was only 10 degrees Celsius. Around 150 people went to the rally and under the motto, "We have the choice." Several speakers and live music drew attention to the concerns of the activists. So that's your kind of on the dot reporting here on May 31st of the Austrian climate protests, which are still ongoing until late into the evening. So eat a lunch and go for a walk. We have some interesting comments here, like, unfortunately, this is from Poppy Seed Lover. System change now. And they do like a this emoji. Unfortunately, all signs point to the almost complete backwardness, as can be seen from the fact that more and more people want a kind of mini Hitler again, find it nice to intone foreigners out, and despite decades of hatred and corruption, and the fact that there is no professional competence at all, right-wing radical corrupt people often win elections and get in governments. Scientific fact, in fact, that is more stuff is flying around our ears every day. Species extinction and nice storms are far less convincing. Somebody's calling me in the middle of the show, rude. Far less convincing than the tale of the evil, beautiful left-wing Marxist eco-terrorist. I like these people and I will continue to support them, but change will be difficult. So there's your confident commenter there. 5 minutes ago they commented that.
Hey.
So your story.
Cool. Well, take care of the planet. It's the only one you got.
Yep.
You might think Mars is a place to live. It's not a place to live, and it never will be. Get that idea out of your head.
At least not
it's a
for
silly
you.
notion.
In 500 years.
Yeah,
maybe.
no, it's nobody's gonna live in Mars. It's just it's legitimately just. I would actually work for wormholes to be found or something like that to worry about space travel. But if there's wormholes out there, that would be something. I would be more looking forward to that. But Mars, what's there? There's nothing there. If you want to go to Mars, go in the desert for about a week and see how it is. Mars is worse than the desert. There's nothing growing there. But anyway, we're going to get into South Africa's election. This is from AP News. Motsi Mogomi and Gerald Imre. Johannesburg, South Africa was heading. Johannesburg is the byline. South Africa was heading closer to a reality of a national coalition government for the first time Friday, as partial election results put the ruling African National Congress well short of a majority. With more than half of the votes counted across the country's 9 provinces, the ANC had just received under 42% of the national vote, according to the early results as counting continued. That represented a huge drop from the 57.5% it received in the last national election, although the final results from Wednesday's election have not been declared. The commission that runs the election said those would be announced by Sunday, possibly sooner. The count for more than 13,000 of the 23,000 polling stations raised the strong possibility that the ANC would need a coalition partner to form government and re-elect President Cyril Ramaphosa for a second and final term. The frenzied negotiations were likely to set to start behind closed doors. The leader of South Africa's main opposition party said he was open to working with the ANC, although he would have to first speak with a group of other parties that he has a pre-election agreement with. The way to rescue South Africa is to break the ANC's majority, and we have done that, said John Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance Party. They are going to end up in the low 40s, and that's obviously opens up a whole new universe of politics in South Africa and to start building something better for the people of South Africa. We have to wait for the results then before we can start any major discussions, he added. Steenhuisen said he had said on election day, all bets are off in this election. We're heading into coalition country. All bets are off? That's a dumb thing to say. ANC had the most votes by some way in the partial count, as expected, with the Democratic Alliance second at around 24%. The ANC is widely expected to still be the biggest party that had the most seats in Parliament. But while opposition parties were hailing what might turn out to be the most significant shift in South African politics in 3 decades, the pressure to get a coalition government in place quickly may now come to the fore, with analysts saying the longer that takes, the more chances of market instability. We can't have market instability. Some rich guy might lose a couple dollars out there.
Oh no!
ANC has said little on its possible coalition partners, despite the issue dominating South Africa's political analysis for months ahead of the election. The various parties, South Africa has at least 4 that could be considered major parties, may now be faced with the reality that they have to work together to deal with the country's challenge. Oh, working together to deal with the country's challenges. What a novel idea. A senior research specialist at Democracy at South Africa's Human Resources Research Council. The coalition negotiations will depend on how far the ANC falls short of the majority in the final results. If indeed it remains under 50%, it just gets short of the majority. It would approach several smaller parties to get past 50%. If it is some way off, as it was in the latest results, it might have to work up one of the 2 main opposition parties, which are called the Centrist Democratic Alliance and the far-left Economic Freedom Fighters. Yeah, I love that one. Economic Freedom Fighters, that's my party. They have very different ideologies. A third major party, the MK of former South African President Jacob Zuma, has said it won't work with the ANC. Analysts say the ANC-EFF coalition could spook investors given the EFF's pledge to nationalize parts of South Africa's economy, the most developed on the African continent. The inclusion of the business-friendly DA in the coalition government would be welcomed by investors, according to Alex Montana, the Southern Africa analyst and British risk intelligence company Verisk Maplecroft. The ANC's clear majority for 30 years, and that's had a clear majority for all 30 years of South Africa's democracy since the party swept the power in 1994 election, which officially ended the apartheid system of white minority rule, leading Nelson Mandela to become the country's first black president. It has been dominant political force, and is slipping below 50% would be a momentous change for South Africa. The ANC support has steadily declined from a high of nearly 70% of the vote 20 years ago as South Africa grapples with deep socioeconomic problems, including widespread poverty, and now the worst unemployment rates in the world at 32%. Poverty and unemployment disproportionately affect South Africa's black majority that make up 80% of the population. Well, of course, they're 80% of the population. I mean, and they were under apartheid. That's the way it was, you know. And the people that had all the money didn't just get, hey, you can have all of our money now. Nope, they just kept it. While the inequalities of apartheid were always going to be hard to solve, the ANC was praised for making progress in the first 10 years of government, is now being blamed for many of the failures. Of course, you get in government, and you get comfortable, and you stop doing stuff. Numerous corruption scandals, of course, you get corrupt too, because, hey, look at an important position. Look what I can do. I can hand out favors. And most recently, an electricity crisis that led to rolling blackouts across the country of 62 million. A projection from government agency and national broadcaster SABC, based on the vote returns, was estimating on Friday that the ANC would end up with just over 40%, a drop of around 17 percentage points, would be a stunning result in the context of South Africa. So there's your election news in South Africa as the votes roll in. They start counting the votes, and it looks like they're going to have a coalition government, and it seems to be this article is only worried about how it affects the markets, not how it affects everyday life in South Africa, whether the government can function, can build bridges,
What about the
that kind
South
of
Africans
stuff
that
seems to be
power
secondary
that
to,
don't have
we hope the
working
millionaires
power
can
grid?
clean
What
up
about
on
those
this.
South Africans,
I'm sorry,
you know?
you're talking over me. I didn't hear anything you said.
I've had many friends from South Africa, and the one complaint I always hear from them is that their power grid is not sustainable. So.
Right. Their infrastructure is shit, but let's go ahead and complain about the market, the short-term gains in the market.
Maybe they
how
can
it has
give those
affected
short-term
anyone in
gains to
South
the
Africa
people.
at all. How does this
Really
affect my Infinity stock or whatever? Like I don't know. I don't care. I mean, seriously, the markets responded. The markets responded because rich people are out there climbing over each other for money. The markets, come on, man. Let's talk about government and getting things done for the people that live in your population. Not how much money you can make for some rich people. Jesus. Get a priority already. Back to you, as I totally editorialized that, which is what I do.
Yeah, the news is really kicking your ass today. Just
Not
really,
kicking my
guys?
ass. It's just like, why are people worried about shit that don't matter? That's all
I
I'm saying.
don't know. They're trying to distract us from the real problems. Of course,
Hey, your
speaking of things
economy
that
would be
don't
better
really
if
matter.
you fix your infrastructure. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of things that don't really matter, in our culture news, I'm going to be talking about how they've banned alcohol from the French Open because the crowd was getting too rowdy. I just thought this was
About
funny
time.
because I did not know people were even getting drunk at tennis tournaments, but according to in France, they are.
Sitting in the sun all day.
Yeah. This was from David Morquand on Your News Culture. The French Open has stopped fans drinking alcohol in the stands in a bid to clamp down on unruly behavior at Roland Garros. Is this the right move? If you have been watching Roland Garros this year, you may have... Is it Garros or Garros? I don't know. I don't watch tennis, but my landlady does. You may have noticed that the crowds seem rowdier than usual. More than that, there have been complaints that etiquette has been thrown out the window, and as a consequence, it's throwing players' game off. That's true. Tennis is a very etiquette-heavy sport. This has led to French Open tournament director Amil Maresmo to declare that alcohol will be banned in the stands. Alcohol has been allowed in the stadiums until now, but that's over, Marismo told reporters. She added that the ban would be total, as the tournament has observed a shift in crowd behavior since the dissolution of COVID restrictions. Yes, people are trying to make up for lost time. Instead of acting normally how they would, they're like, oh, but we had like 2 to 3 years of not being able to be normal, so I'm gonna make up for it by being 3 times as rowdy as usual. The announcement comes after the world number 1 and 3-time champion Iga Swiatek chastised the crowd for making too much noise during points, asking him to be more courteous after a win over Naomi Osaka. There were also complaints made by Belgian player David Goffin, who claimed he was spat at during his win over home hopeful Giovanni Mepschi Pericard earlier this week. Clearly it goes too far. It's total disrespect, Goffin said. It's become like football. Soon there will be smoke bombs, hooligans, and there'll be fights in the stands. It's starting to become ridiculous. Some people are there more to cause trouble than to create an atmosphere. Goffin noted that things are worse at French Open than at Wimbledon, the Australian Open, or the US Open. What's wrong with the French? It's really an unhealthy atmosphere, I think, he said. You can feel that people are talking to you and trying to throw you off balance with really harsh words. I'm going to repeat what I heard. I'm not going to repeat what I heard. French Tennis Federation, or FFT, has called on fans to show full respect to all players after Goffin's complaints, and Maresmo's has gone a step further by adding that security will be tightened on site and that those who cross the line will be removed. Defending men's champion Novak Djokovic believed players wanted a good atmosphere as long as a fine line is not crossed, echoing Maresmo's words. I understand players like Goffin the other day reacting because I've experienced quite a few times those particular situations, Djokovic said. I support a player standing up against people who are disrespecting and heckling him. He added, we're different from football or basketball, but at the same time, we want a good atmosphere as a player. From my standpoint, I really want to see fans cheering and see the atmosphere. It's fine line when the line is passed and when it starts becoming disrespectful towards the player. The alcohol ban has not gone down well with certain fans, probably the ones who wanted to use the alcohol as an excuse for being rowdy, who believe that the ban is out of step with the other Grand Slams, where spectators are permitted to drink alcohol in the stands. One journalist writing for British outlet Daily Mail, so take what they're saying with a grain of salt, stated that banning alcohol feels like giving the whole classroom detention because one of child's bad behavior, with reference to what David Goffin experienced. Forces fans to choose between watching tennis and having a drink. Oh no, you have to choose? That sounds... Stop being an alcoholic then, I don't know. Oh god, I need a drink and watch tennis. If I can't do both, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. Okay.
That's what it's like being alcoholic.
Maresmo's new diktat. However, alcohol, including beer from mobile vendors, will still be sold around the Roland Garros rounds, so fans won't go too thirsty. So where do you draw the line? Is Maresmo right? Noise in the stands is nothing new in tennis, and it's true that French Open's actions seem more extreme than those of other Grand Slams. That said, Mauresmo's comments regarding a shift in crowd dynamics at live events as the pandemic feels spot on. Whether it's tennis at gigs, when crowds now have a tendency to throw objects onto the stage, or at the theater, regular etiquette seems to have taken a blow. There seems to be an increased expectation when you go to a live event nowadays, with the lockdown still consciously and subconsciously playing on people's minds, be it in an increased sense of entitlement as audiences gradually recover from the impacts of the pandemic, or the sense that crowds are harder to impress and less patient. A different mindset is present. Have audiences forgotten how to behave? They may have to get with the program, as the upcoming Olympics in Paris will also be imposing a ban on drinking in the stadiums. However, VIPs will be exempt. Some things don't change. And that's the final statement there from David Morquand on alcohol in the stands. As a person who doesn't drink, of course I don't get any of this, because it's very easy for me to not drink while I'm watching a sports game. Of course, I also don't watch sports games, so this entire story is unapplicable to me and my lifestyle. But I mean, if you're having issues choosing between watching your probably very expensive tennis tickets that you bought or drinking, you probably need to go to the local Alcohol Anonymous and ask them for help.
Oh, the alcoholics will solve this. Don't worry about that. They'll sneak something in.
It's not fun if you're not drinking.
There's a reason it's called bootlegging. The reason it's called bootlegging, because you stick a big flask down your bootleg and nobody sees it, right? And you're nice and toasted by the third set. And you're like, who's playing? Plus your neck does this all day.
Yeah. Great exercise for the neck.
Yeah, right. You're gonna get carpal tunnel of the neck, though.
Carpal tunnel of the neck.
I sent you a mic drop. I don't know if you want to pick it up maybe around a minute or so in.
Okie dokie.
And it's this day in history. On this day in history, we've got back to the mists of time for May 31st in the year 1790. The United States established copyright law. So getting them copyright strikes on your YouTube videos or whatever, blame the United States copyright law, 1790. And probably the first one, I'm guessing. In 1819, American poet, essayist, and journalist Walt Whitman was born in Long Island, New York. Long Island, New York. And of course, he took advantage of the copyright law by copywriting his poems. In 1889, considered one of the worst natural disasters in American history, a flood ravaged Johnstown, Pennsylvania, causing more than 2,200 deaths. Anniversary of John. This is an anniversary of a lot of shitty things happening, by the way. In 1902, the South African War, or Boer War, came to a close with the signing of the Peace of Vereniging. Something we couldn't actually pronounce. And we were talking about South Africa earlier. Yeah, the Boer War. That was I believe the Dutch, or the Belgians. No, the Belgians. The Belgians, right? 1910, Louis Botha formed the first government of the Union of South Africa. It's all about South Africa today. Yeah. My goodness. So 8 years later, after the Boer War,
probably why they're having the election, right?
The first
it's the day that they
first apartheid election. Botha was the guy who started apartheid. In 1906, the Battle of Jutland, an encounter between British and German naval fleets in World War I, began. Another horrible thing on this date, 1921, the Tulsa Massacre began in Oklahoma as mobs of both African Americans and whites descended on the courthouse where a black man who was accused of assaulting a white one was being held. In the ensuing violence, Tulsa's proper black neighborhood of Green was destroyed and many as 300 people were killed, mostly African Americans. They actually were bombing them.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the most disgusting acts of barbaric indiscriminate killing in American history, and I never learned about it till like the year 2000. The real tragedy here is that it was completely buried in local lore, basically, until brave people started talking about it, I guess. I don't know how it finally leaked out that this actually happened, but eventually we all know about it now. How much other shit don't we know about, right?
Right, yeah.
1943. There's no way of measuring the amount of knowledge you don't have, right? The American gridiron football player Joe Namath was born on this day in 1943. It's his it's 81st birthday for Joe Namath. Happy birthday to Broadway Joe. Famous quarterback for the New York Jets. 1977, the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, which connected the oil fields of Prudhoe Bay in northern Alaska with the harbor at Valdez, 800 miles to the south, was completed. On 2005, in this day, it was officially revealed that the FBI official Mark Felt was the deep throat contact used by Woodward and Bernstein he was the anonymous informant at the center of the Watergate scandal that involved U.S. President Richard Nixon administration. He was leaking stuff to the Washington Post and two newspaper reporters, Woodward and Bernstein. 2009, Melvina Dean, the last known person to have survived the sinking of the Titanic in 1912, died in Southampton, England. She was 9 weeks old at the time of the disaster. Don't remember none of it, I guarantee. 9 weeks. So, damn, she died in 2009. She wasn't quite 100 yet.
9 weeks, yeah.
Our featured event, Adolf Eichmann was hanged on this day. On this day in 1962, the state of Israel hanged the German official Adolf Eichmann, who had escaped from prison camp in 1946 and spent 14 years in hiding. First part of the Nazi extermination of Jews during World War II. So Adolf Eichmann was a scumbag. And he was caught and he was hanged. Our featured biography, it's Clint Eastwood's birthday today. Happy birthday, Clint Eastwood. Born May 30th, 1930s. 94 today. Britannica still getting the year wrong. I'm not sure why. Their pages can't automatically update, but they think it's 2023 again. Still this late into the year, they still have Clint being 93 when he's 94. Also in this day, Ellsworth Kelly, American painter sculptor, born in 1923. Prince Rainier of Monaco, born in 1923 in this day. We did Clint Eastwood. We did Joe Namath and John Bonham, the sound of Led Zeppelin, the band, the drummer, John Bonham, whose death precipitated the end of Led Zeppelin because he was the sound of Led Zeppelin. He really hit the drums. John Bonham, born on this day in 1947. It doesn't have the day he died. I don't know exactly what day it was, but I'm pretty sure it was 1980. Look it up. Let's see. They have clickable links. See, he was born September 25th, 1980. That was the end of Led Zeppelin. So happy birthday. Happy what would be his 77th birthday. Probably still be playing rock and roll because Robert Plant and Jimmy Page still are.
Yeah.
So happy birthday to John Bonham. And National Day is National Save Your Hearing Day. Did you hear that? It's National Save Your Hearing Day. So don't be going to the rifle range without without hearing protection.
Rifle range.
Don't work on loud cars.
Listen to your music in your headphones quieter, because that is actually how most people get hearing loss. Because wearing headphones is a very recent phenomenon in human history. So.
And the thing about hearing loss, you'll lose certain frequencies and you won't even know it.
Yep. It's very scary.
And so, yeah. How are you going to know it? You can't hear what you don't know, right? You can't hear what you can't hear. National Speak in Complete Sentences Day, especially if you're talking to somebody with hearing loss. It's National Autonomous Vehicle Day. Autonomous vehicle. I'm sorry?
People with hearing loss don't mumble days for them. What did you say? I can't hear you. You're speaking in mumbles.
What? Morons say what? Anyway, National National Autonomous Vehicle Day is, I guess, self-driving. Another name for self-driving vehicles. Autonomous vehicle makes them sound like they can vote, doesn't it? It's like, who's my car voting for this year? National Macaroon Day. That's I think based on coconuts, right? Coconut flavored things. National Utah Day, which is that big old pretty state out in the middle of the United States where nobody lives. I mean, Salt Lake City is a decent sized city, Provo, but there ain't a lot of big cities in Salt Lake City. They actually have 2 pro teams though. They have an NBA team and now an NHL team over there.
Hell yeah!
So the Phoenix Coyotes weren't making any money in Phoenix, so they moved to Utah. They had to go where there's actually snow, I guess. It's Necrotizing Fasciitis Awareness Day. This is a thing that happens in your foot and looks like it happens up towards your toes. You were talking about it earlier. You might have looked it up. I don't know.
Yeah. Basically, it is... Where was it? Here's the page. Necrotizing fasciitis is an observance for preventing an infection in which it's very rare disease that affects the soft tissue of the skin, and if not appropriately treated, can spread quickly. It's very rare, and it can happen in anybody, even healthy people, and it's caused by a small cut being infected with necrotizing bacteria. And it just eats up your skin, and then you just don't have skin anymore. No, you do have skin, but it's incredibly... If it gets it gets worse, you may end up experiencing symptoms of the flu, including a fever, and you'll be very tired. Your skin will change, and there'll be ooze. It's disgusting. So, if you have a cut in your foot, make sure you wash it.
Soak
put a
your
Band-Aid
feet in,
on that. Wrap
soak
it up.
it in alcohol.
Yep.
Soak your feet in alcohol.
Don't get any foot infections.
And of course, necrotizing. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just saying there's your PSA. Don't wash your feet.
Oh, okay. And of course, necrotizing, just another fancy word for what happens to your body when you die. Everything just starts to solidify and called rigor mortis.
And then you also start
as all the moisture leaves
down.
All the moisture leaves your body and the warmth. Yep. And okay, so that was all your days for today. And so that's it for the week and the month of May. We'll see you in June. That's it for today, May 31st, 2024 on Before Macaroons.
Yeah. All right. This has been Allison here from the Netherlands. I hope you have a good weekend. Go celebrate convictions, I guess, or go protest for the climate if you can. We will see you on the next Muffin Fun Day in June.
I'm gonna go watch the French Open
Sorry?
Yeah. Well, while you're downloading the video, I'm gonna tell you what my plans are. I'm gonna watch the French Open and have one shot for each Trump conviction, and I'll be mumbling on the floor in about 14 minutes.
You're mumbling on the floor. Every shot.
Can I?
You don't even drink.
Take
you don't
me
even
to
drink
the emergency
anymore,
room. No, I can't drink. They'll be very small shots. Okay. There's your.
Just put your pinky
mic drop
in it,
moment.
You know?
Hopefully, you edited it.
Oh no, I edited it. I just forgot to download it. So okay, we're ready.
Oh, okay.
So here is your mic drop moment.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.